The Square Ball Podcast.
Hello there, welcome to the show. The West Stand is our new show for this season. It's out on a Monday and a Friday. You can find it on YouTube and in your podcast app as well. Guests from across the world of Leeds United. I'm Dan Moylan, with me is Michael Normanton. You all right?
I'm not so bad, thank you, yes.
It's exciting, isn't it? Cyber Monday today. We've got that exclusive deal from NordVPN for Cyber Monday. They've continued the Black Friday deal all the way through to Cyber Monday. A very brave choice. I'm sure everybody who's on YouTube will agree. For the benefit of the audio listeners, it was a very brave choice of us to come dressed as Daft Punk today.
Of course, yes. I can't wait to see what the Shrove Tuesday offer is, actually, because that's be around before you know it, won't it?
We used NordVPN at the weekend, didn't we?
Yeah.
To transport ourselves to the German office.
It wasn't their fault what happened when we were watching telly via that.
No.
But it wasn't great, was it?
No, I mean, let's not talk down the service from NordVPN.
No,
the end product was not. They were very much nothing to do with that.
There was zero buffering, I will say that.
Yeah.
Although it was sometimes hard to tell with the amount of stop-start in play and all that. But the service worked very well.
Yep, so you can watch sporting events, TV shows, movies and stuff like that aren't available in your region by switching virtual location like we did at the weekend. Popped over to Germany, didn't we?
Is that where it was?
German server, yeah. You can protect your private data, obviously, with a VPN. So if you're on public Wi-Fi networks, that kind of thing, you don't want anybody getting their hands on your banking information, which would terrify Michael, quite frankly.
There's nothing in there. It's fine. But even so, I don't want anyone getting their hands on my 50 pence.
Yeah, it's all stuffed under your mattress, isn't it? The fastest VPN in the world. Premium cybersecurity for the price of a cup of coffee per month.
Is there a money-back guarantee?
Funny you should mention it, Michael. Thank you very much. Yeah, 30 days from NordVPN. Have a look at nordvpn.com/TSB. You'll get an additional 4 months on top of your discounted 2-year plan. And yeah, you get the 30-day money-back guarantee. nordvpn.com/TSB. And you will find the link in the episode description box as well. Intro our guest now. We will talk about what's about to come. He's not here yet. We're recording this just slightly ahead of time. Hayden Evans is here. As you know from the episode title, Gary Speed's former agent, David Batty's former agent. It's his birthday today, David Batty, as we record this.
The agent of many Leeds players last season, not so many this year.
Yeah, so Jamie Shacks, crucially, the Gray family, and Andy Gray, Archie's dad, works at the agency with Richard Cresswell, former Leeds player. So loads of links to Leeds, and it's always a great chat talking to Hayden, so we're looking forward to this one.
And it gives us a great opportunity to not talk too much about the Blackburn game.
Yeah, very much so. So stick about and enjoy this one with us as we chat to Hayden Evans. Welcome to the show then, Hayden Evans. Thanks for coming back in.
Great to be here again. Thank you very much.
Big day today as well, David Batty's birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Bats.
I take it you haven't reached out to him. Just leave him be.
He'd be stunned if I did.
Did you see the thing this week? Was it Rio Ferdinand and Robbie Keane talking about they've got a WhatsApp group of all the former Champions League players, and they're all still in it, and they all occasionally meet up and go for drinks.
They're not all in it.
Except David.
David Batty.
Yeah.
And you're here to give a quick plug to your son James. Is doing something pretty good for a mental health charity. Do you want to give us the details on that?
Yeah, it's just I suppose it is a blatant plug. I was just going to apologise for it.
No, it's why we're here.
He's going to climb or attempt to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in summer, all for Student Minds, which is mental health awareness, specifically for students who clearly some of them go through some pretty anxious times. He's got a Just Giving page, which you guys kindly are going to put out there. Absolutely any donation would be appreciated, but he's going to give it a go. Surprised me really. I didn't know anything about it, but he knows that I'm pretty strong on mental health awareness, and obviously he knew Gary well, and so good luck to him on that.
Yeah, we'll put the link in the episode description. I suppose going back to when you set out in the football agency game, however many years ago it was now, you wouldn't expect that mental health will be such, I suppose, a hot topic, because you've experienced the terrible downside to that with the loss of Gary Speed. We're now speaking close to when Gary passed, the anniversary of that. Mm-hmm. And I suppose it's come a long way in that time. And if there is some good to have come out of awful circumstances, hopefully it's opening up that conversation. We've spoken about it before, how you at the agency will check in on your players, particularly a lot of young men, using stuff like journaling to document their state of mind. So where are we with that now? Being so close to the passing of the anniversary of Gary's passing.
Obviously pretty repetitive, but it needs to be. So people need to continue to be aware that, you know, all the cliches, it's good to talk, etc., etc. But I think, it's certainly people are far more aware of the situation now. I think they're far more aware of what they can do to help themselves, which is, I think, you know, the singular most important thing. Is great to have organisations, great to have people that you can drop in and have a coffee and a chat with, but more and more people individually aware that it's not embarrassing to talk, it's not embarrassing to hold your hands up and say you're feeling a bit down. And I think Gary opened that whole thing out. And like you say, if there can be any good out of a situation like that, it made certainly sports people far more aware that they should talk. There's no shame in it. Forget all the dressing room embarrassment stuff and the gaffer won't pick me, he'll think I'm soft. That's gone now, thank God, totally. And so, there's plenty of causes, plenty of people you can reach out to. And I think it's really important that people have this in mind all the time.
You look after a lot of younger players at the agency. How do they receive that sort of the guidance or the guiding hand around mental health now? Is it something they're a lot more switched on to? Because like you say, maybe the sort of macho, don't talk about this stuff attitude has faded a little bit.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, they're very receptive to it, and that's due to not just agencies, but clubs themselves. You know, clubs are well equipped to make sure that they look for the warning signs, make it very easy for younger players to talk to people. The PFA, who used to be absolutely abysmal at this type of thing, they've brightened up their act as well. So all round, in terms of support mechanisms, plenty of support, plenty of places to go. And, a young player's certainly not alarmed by somebody mentioning it to him and thinking, oh my God, well, what do I do? Or no, that's not for me. I think they're very receptive.
Do you think we're in an era now of slightly dehumanising young footballers, particularly around social media? Because there's so much wealth goes to young people now. It's not like the old boot room thing where players used to have to necessarily come up cleaning the boots on YTS contracts. A lot of them, in many cases, can be millionaires before they've even properly made a dent on the game, just because of the nature of young players' contracts and academies and that sort of thing. Do you think now that's made them harder to relate to for fans, and fans are perhaps harder on players than they used to be, and maybe social media contributes to that a little bit?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we've talked about this probably for 10 years or more, that there's a distance now between the player that you go out and pay to watch and his lifestyle and yours on the terraces. The two will never meet. It's gone. So I think people have got used to that, but because of that, there's a lack of sympathy, I suppose. If a player is struggling in any way, and it's made public, then he's going to get far less support than normally, because he's got everything in the world, this, that, and the other. But Gary was an example of that, and yet the world to an extent rallied round when Gary died. But he was somebody who had it all. The money, the prestige, the rest of it. So it was surprisingly good that there wasn't this, well, he had everything, what's he got to moan about? There wasn't that attitude. There is at the moment with certainly young players. If you get a young player going out on social media, having maybe a moment, where he's anxious about something and he portrays it in his Insta or whatever, he's going to get a backlash for sure. And that's why the majority should be taught not to voice those opinions or those worries socially. So when we say it's good to talk, we mean talk to a person face to face, not, pour out on social media, because you won't get any sympathy, for sure.
What do you think about the reaction to defeats now and the way that social media is contributing to that? And we're talking now off the back of the Blackburn game, which you were at, Hayden, not great. And the way that social media kind of feeds not negativity, because there's bound to be a bit of negativity, I suppose, in the wake of a defeat, but how it's not just a bit of negativity, it's how it feeds and spirals, and what it does to people who consume it. Because we were just chatting off air beforehand, saying, "Isn't it funny how they bloody ruin your mood?" And I'm fairly sure, and I know in fact that it's not just that; it is doom scrolling in the wake of a defeat, and just reminding yourself that you feel bad. And I'm trying to make conscious efforts to shut it out a little bit now when Leeds don't win, because it's not the end of the world. There are more important things.
Yeah, I think I'm like you. I've got to the point now where, say, if after Saturday, for example, it's like, right, I'm not going to look on X or whatever for a couple of days, because if I do, I'll just get angry. I'd rather be grumpy, in my own house, take it out on whoever's there, and then try and rally by Monday. But if I start reading all the shit, then I have I then respond. I suppose I respond in a way that I don't really feel, because my reaction to all that criticism is, even though 80% of it's probably quite fair if they just calm down and criticise, I rally against them, because it's like, well, no, we're all Leeds together. What you're talking about sacking, what you're talking about this and that. So I react badly to that sort of stuff, and probably, you're probably more critical of those people that are having a moan, where really I feel the same way. But I think there's ways and means, that's all. And as a Leeds fan, God, everybody knows we've been there 1,000 times before. So what's the point in just, after you've had 5 or 6 pints on a Saturday night, then, fuming on Twitter or whatever? It's pretty pointless. It's
the argument you see where there are some people who are angry that people are angry. There are some people angry that people aren't angry enough. There's like the whole spectrum of it is there, with people going, well, you should be angry because we're terrible and this is happening again. It's like, well, you should just calm down. There's nothing wrong here.
It's only a game.
You're being ridiculous. It's just like everyone just needs to calm down sometimes. I will say, I think that because I'm both currently bridging both Blue Sky and Twitter. Blue Sky seems a touch more sane at the moment, but that might just be because there are far fewer people on it. Yeah.
It'll end up going that way, I dare say. In which case, something else might spring up. But
I could just turn it all off. Would be the better option.
It's funny because we all know, don't we, which way these conversations go, and yet sometimes there's just that human part of you can't help it. And I suppose you're in a really interesting position, Hayden, because you've got, as we've spoken about on shows we've done with you before, it's a foot in various camps, because you work for the agency, you look after footballers, you know what it's like for them, and as we led off on mental health there. But there's also the part of you that's the Leeds fan, who's on the terraces, who's there at Blackburn at the weekend, seeing it as a supporter. So how do you manage that?
Yeah, it's not difficult, because it's what I've done. So I've been an agent, 35 years, followed Leeds for a lot more than that. So, Leeds sort of comes first. So in terms of my feelings and my internal feelings, it's, I feel just as aggrieved and just as angry or sad or whatever it is when we get beat. And I don't sort of put that into any logical position in terms of what else I do. It's, Jesus Christ, here we go again. And that's it. And I, it's only when I get round to Monday or Tuesday, after a defeat, that everything's put back into perspective, because you've got a player elsewhere that's done really well that weekend. Or I suppose we've got that salvation, Richard Creswell, Andy Gray, myself, in the agency, that we then have got an eye on other players wherever they are, and even abroad. People like Max Dean right now, we're so proud of, because he's taken a chance. He's gone abroad, different place, different language, all that, and he's absolutely flying. So we can sort of suffer the Leeds defeat in silence, get to Monday morning, and then see, Max is doing really well. So it picks you up a bit.
You just don't talk about the bad thing. Yeah. Early start for you then on Saturday when you went to Blackburn. Sober as a judge with a 7:30 start.
Yeah, my first first away trip with the Garforth Whites this year, because of personal situation. So I thought I'd give it a go, but I'm not supposed to be drinking yet. So it was early.
Not supposed to be, or aren't?
Yeah, well, I had 2 pints during the whole day. So it's weird really, because normally I'm with them and having a few, but I've got to sort of temper that at the moment.
Behave yourself.
What was the atmosphere like in the ground? On TV, it's hard to pick it up, but it didn't sound like it was a particularly great atmosphere considering there were 7,000 Leeds fans.
Yeah, I think that was because there was a problem with the bars at the club. So the shutters went down and nobody got drinks. So there was no concourse, building it up, and that atmosphere that you normally get is people just wandering in, the majority of which normally have at least 4 or 5 pints, and they're going, Jesus Christ, we got here an hour before and the bar's shut.
The card machines weren't working?
Yeah, the
right?
whole of the ground. So you try and, I think they tried on the Tannoy probably to explain to that Leeds end and the Leeds concourse it wasn't just you. And then the funniest thing was, I think we were, I don't know, I don't know, were we 15 minutes into the game, something like that, or more? And then the Tannoy, he announced during the game, you'll be pleased to know we've rectified the systems, the bars are now open. And I swear, a quarter of that Leeds end just flooded out. So yeah, I put a lot of that down to the fact it wasn't the usual build-up in the concourse. But,
Reminds me of being at Barnsley one time when they decided they were going to shut the bar, but Leeds fans decided it would be better if it stayed open.
Democracy in action, if you like.
The shutters were not allowed to be closed.
Yeah.
And I think a few freebies may have been dished out as well as a result of the service.
You're talking there about personal circumstance, Hayden. It's been quite a summer of turmoil for you on a personal level. I mean, a lot happened with the agency as well. Archie Gray obviously left Leeds to go to Spurs, and in the midst of all that, you were in hospital dealing with it.
Yeah. So, yeah, quite a shock to us all, really. So, in the middle of June, and I'm grateful for you the chance to talk about it, because I think people should be sort of aware of situations, and as the story unfolds, they'll realise why it's good to talk. But yeah, I had no symptoms of any problems other than one particular day. I went to the toilet and it was all blood and clots. And I went to see the GP quickly. Literally I tried to get in the same day, but I went the day after. He was extremely quick as well. He referred me to a urologist in Malton. I went up there within, I think, the system. This was all NHS, by the way, within 3 days, something like that. I was with the urologist and he was putting a camera down there, which was the most painful thing, by the way, I've ever had, this camera down. But he then just sort of got hold of my arm. He said, I know this is painful, but I need to look at the screen. He said, that's a tumour. He said, but I think we're at the right time. I think we can scrape it, or whatever the term is, in and out same day, and it looks like we'll be okay. So they, again, very quickly got me in, did the scrape, but then within 3 days of that, we sort of got a call about, we'd like you to come down and maybe bring your partner with you. And so you sort of think, here we go. And yeah, so when went in, they said, look, unfortunately, it's bad news. It's grade 3 cancer. It's invasive of the bladder, and we need to get going with this. If we can. They also said, this was at York, funny enough, and they said, look, some of the best surgeons, cancer surgeons in the country are in Leeds at St James's, and you've got a Leeds postcode, so if you want, you can either stay with us or you can go over there, So I chose to be transferred to Leeds, to St James's. They very quickly said, when their surgeons looked at it, they said, look, this thing is moving, but we can't get you in until something like July, which was pretty quick anyway. So I said, fine. I said, I'm supposed to be going to the Euros with my son, so am I all right to do that? I said, yeah, you're in a bit of discomfort, but if your head's in the right place. So it was a time of, I was determined not to sort of feel sorry for myself or dwell on it. There's nothing you can do about it. So I went out to Germany, but then we got a call literally after the first game from the surgeon saying, look, I've got an opportunity to operate Monday, so can you fly back and all that? Came back, they operated. Turned out in the end it was something like an 8-hour operation because there were complications, and they felt that the best way of trying to beat the cancer would be to remove not just my bladder but my prostate, the lymph nodes around it, so the whole area basically, so that, there was nowhere for it to go at that point. So that was all a bit of a shock, but absolutely, you're just in their hands. They know what they're doing, and leave it to them. So the recovery period, coupled with have they got rid of it all, that initial bit is the time of sort of worry. I felt that, okay, we don't know whether they've done the good job or whatever. Apart from that, when you're in the theatre for that length of time, it's a really lengthy sort of recovery period. But the surgeon, who will give a shout out to them, Mr. Devlin, and one of the nurses, Kaya, were absolutely incredible at supporting you without any drama. So, for me, as soon as I was diagnosed, it was, I don't really want to surround myself with people that make a drama out of situations like this. And we all know we've all got them. Families have all got them. So there's a lot of people I didn't even tell until after I've been in the theatre. Because you've got sort of 2 or 3 types of people. You've got those supportive people who quietly are supportive, and that's what really you need. You've got those that love a drama, and you don't need them around you at that point. And you've also got those that they sort of know better, done better, or know somebody who's worse off than you. So you don't need them either. So I think, the message I would give to anybody who gets in that unfortunate position of diagnosis is sort of think about who you want to surround yourself with. It's that positivity thing. I felt I needed a strong mental attitude to it, on the basis that no matter what happens, if they've got rid of it or if they haven't got rid of it, then it's again cliches. It's you can't worry about things that you can't affect. So it's done and dusted at that point. It takes its course, and they either work their magic, or you're unfortunate enough that you go to the next step. For me, fortunately, sort of 8 weeks, 10 weeks on, they went for full CT scans, and they were delighted that, and as I was, that there were no signs of remaining cancer cells. And now it's just 3 months at a time and everything else. But one of the things they talked to me about was the recovery period. And I think it's prevalent to a lot of situations you might find yourself in. They said to me, look, the stronger your mind is, and the more positive you are, it's a genuine, this isn't just talk. It will speed up your recovery. It will help your recovery, and you'll feel better, And I felt like that before even them telling me that's how I want it to be. And I'm, touch wood, I'm well ahead of schedule. It's just a lethargy situation. But I guess at my age, you normally fall asleep at 4 in the afternoon anyway. So it's like, well, I've been doing this for the last 2 years. But then the other things are, and again, I'd encourage people, if there are people out there that find themselves in a situation where they're worried about stoma bags and things like that. I've got a bag now. They're incredible. Their engineering is incredible. So you've got a stoma bag, and that's it. And it's funny enough, at the game, it was my mate Dave, who I sit with all the time, and James. I felt that the bag was full, so I went down. I went to go open the bag, and then I went back up to Dave. I said, guess what I've done here? I said, I've stood there twice now, got my cock out to have a piss, and there's nothing coming out. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? And then I've realised I've got a bag attached at the side, so I just undo the tap. Happy days,
It prevents any drip accidents.
Yeah, it's great.
It's an enhancement, if anything.
It's fantastic. I've not got those wet patches anymore. It's like happy days.
I suppose you're talking there about like the recovery period and mindset. 8 to 10 weeks. It's a long time to think about it. And when you've been in surgery for 8 hours, it's a long time to think about it. Like in the immediate short term as well. Just laid there.
Yeah, it's that period of wait, that period of, has it worked, hasn't it? Because if it hasn't worked, that's fine. Let's crack on, have some chemotherapy, understand what it is we have to do, and then you've got your life, your immediate life set out for you. If it's successful, fantastic. That's a great result. And then we have to understand how to live with what's been taken out of your body. But yeah, that initial period, and that process can't be sped up. They have to analyse what they've taken out. They have to understand, all the rest of it. So certainly the cancer team at St James's are incredible, absolutely incredible. The support that you're given, and then the after support. But the biggest thing is the length of surgery. You just don't want that length. You know, they told me full recovery in terms of energy levels. Largely, you talk about a month for every hour that you're on the table. So that it should have been 8.5 months for me. You know, but we're way ahead of that. So I think it's just literally about getting your energy levels, understanding there's things you can't do too soon. I messed it up completely after I got out because I thought, again, I was Mr. Invincible and things are going great here. So it would be, only 4 weeks after surgery, I went to the Joshua Dubois fight, you know, and I drove down to London. I wasn't supposed to be driving. I sat and watched the fight until 1:30 in the morning, came back, you know, and then literally that following week, my body just shut down completely. The body just told me I'd done too much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, you know, unlike me, you have to listen to those experts and they tell you how to recover and what you can and you can't do.
It's interesting how you were cast into the arena of dealing with male mental health, you know, with the conversations around Gary Speed. So it's something you've dealt with but in a kind of abstract way because it was somebody else. But when it's you, do you then find yourself thinking differently? You haven't had conversations with yourself and say, I need to listen to the things that I've been talking about.
It's exactly that. And, you know, and what was amazing was the number of people and friends that I've got, close friends, who said exactly that. Now's the time. Instead of preaching to others, you need to listen to what you've been saying, you know, and do what you've been telling other people to do. And yeah, honestly, like just about all my close friends said exactly the same thing to me around the same time, that now you've got, and obviously Lucy was totally pissed off when I just ignored everybody and went to the Joshua Dubois fight, you know. But other than that incident, yeah, I've definitely a lot of what we've talked about before has come into practice with me.
Yeah. Set against the sale of Archie Gray as well. I mean, the timing of it. I mean, we've realised since from having conversations that was going on while you were in the midst of all that.
Yeah.
Which is obviously a huge deal. I mean, and I don't mean a huge deal financially. I mean, it's a huge deal for everybody, for club, for player, for you, for business.
I suppose the big advantage for me was the fact that Andy looks after Archie effectively as an agent and a father. And Andy's very well equipped now. He's been in the business long enough, very well equipped to do a big deal. So there was no anxiousness whatsoever. You know, if whatever was right, Andy would decide, you know, and deal with it. It's exactly the same as Charlie. When Charlie, people, Toulouse, where on earth did that come from? Well, that's because Richard's on the ball, you know, and he looks after his son entirely. So both those lads, I really don't look after at all, you know, other than I'm here and I talk to Andy and all the rest of it. But yeah, that was well executed by Andy in that there wasn't that much speculation about it. So the deal that happened wasn't the one that everybody thought was going to happen. So there's all this nonsense about Brentford. There was this, that, the other. But, you know, he did it the right way. You know, there was no loose lips from our end, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a sense of relief when it wasn't Brentford. It didn't feel it didn't feel like a good enough move, did it? I think it would have definitely been harder to swallow, I think, because while Spurs have not exactly won a great deal, they're clearly set up as a very big club down there, so you could kind of accept it, I think, whereas Brentford did feel...
Yeah, it wouldn't have felt right, would it, really?
No.
Brentford. But, you know, certainly, you know, in Andy's negotiations with Spurs, you know, it was sort of made clear the pathway, and that was not, it wasn't about the money, it was the pathway more than anything else, and that suited Andy for his son. And I think that's been fulfilled because certain people will say, well, look, he's not getting any minutes. He was never going to get 90 minutes in a top 6 Premier League side, you know. But what he is getting is 90 minutes in all their European adventures. So, you know, he's playing the Romas of this world and getting full 90 minutes, you know, and he's getting on now and again with Spurs. So, you know, so far so good, I think.
And would he have stayed if there wasn't the financial imperative, do you think?
I don't think it was so much a financial imperative because that's the club's, you know, this is me being callous as an agent now.
Yeah.
That's a club's position and that's their problem, you know, and never would we sell one of our players or move one of our players because the club said they need the money. I mean, we had one experience of that a long time ago, and that was Bats. Funny enough, when basically the club made it absolutely clear he had to go to save the club. But no, I think it was more a case of if we'd have been successful in 90 minutes at Wembley and gone up, Archie was going nowhere. Just as simple as that. It was purely because we didn't make the Premier League.
Right. So the intention was to have him in the Premier League at some point.
Yep.
Preferably with Leeds, but Leeds couldn't manage that.
Route A was Leeds United.
Yeah.
And option B was somewhere else.
As you mentioned, young players before there, Max Dean has taken a very unconventional path, much the same way that Cressy's ended up in France with Toulouse.
Yeah.
How difficult is it for a young player to make that jump? Because Archie to Spurs, you're still in the same country, it's the same language. What's that like for a young player like Max Dean? Yeah,
I think, we've talked about mindsets and strength of character, strength of mind. It needs a young player that's got that something about him to take that leap. Max is full of confidence. He's a very confident young man, on and off the park. So, people, again, Richard was the main instigator in this, Richard Creswell. It's good that we've got people within the organisation that have played God knows how many games, because they can sit and talk. It'd be no good me with 34 years as an agent saying, I think that's great for you, Max. They say, yeah, well, all right. So you might as well talk to me about the money then. But if Richard talks to them or Andy talks to them, it's about pathway. It's about, where this leads you to. And it was felt that he'd done well at MK Dons. They were wanting certain fees for him and everything else. So he could have gone similar. He could have gone up a league, everything else, and played another full season, scored another load of goals, then eventually maybe gone on to the Championship and so on. But if he took the gamble to go to somewhere like Ghent, we know that, he may not start in every game, but he'd start in the majority. He'd get far more minutes than taking a big leap of faith to go bottom middle Championship, for example. But he had to have the mindset that I'm going to a different country, different language, different culture, the whole thing. And he was prepared to do that immediately. He was just prepared to do it. And I think he scored 14 goals so far this season. He's flying. So yeah, it was all power to him, really. And of course, Richard for finding that opportunity.
From what I saw of him playing for the reserves, he never struck me as a shy lad.
No, it's definitely not that. It's and again you have to take that into consideration, because if you have to have serious conversations with these lads. That look, you can't have your mates round, flying them in every weekend and then going on the piss after a game or whatever, and you've got to sort of calm it down a little bit until you've ingratiated yourself. But he's already done that, so his celebrations are pretty, about him and all the rest of it. But yeah, I think he's settled well.
Just pack him off with a PS5. So just stay on that.
Yeah.
Ignore the Belgian lager.
It'd be nice if he could, but no.
As a Leeds fan looking after these players, is there a bit of disappointment always when they do move on? Because for the people we've talked about, Archie obviously was a big success last year, but we've just had one season out of him. Cressy and Shaxx obviously moved on. Max Dean never really got a chance in the first team, but they're all people who it feels like under different circumstances were on the verge of getting a decent run of games potentially.
Yeah, but I think that's football for you. You make a decision to leave a club when you have to sit down logically and say, right, what's in front of me? Does the manager fancy me anyway? Or is it time to go? And in all those cases, it was clear that, in some cases like Archie, the manager liked him, and they were prepared to offer another year. But he was never going to get hardly any minutes. And we felt there were still decent-sized clubs, even though I hate saying it as a Leeds fan. Sheffield United are a decent club. So, he had the opportunity to go there. Great. Max, at the time he left, the club was getting nowhere near. So he was always going to have to step back to go forward and see if he could. It's just as clear as day. And you have to be callous and hard with your players and tell them it don't matter what your head's telling you or what your mate down the street is saying you're better than him, you should be getting, you aren't going to play for Leeds United at this moment in time. So we've got to be quite hard with them as well. Cressy is the weird one, really, because I think in most people's opinions, he's that sort of centre-back that should be on the bench right now, possibly. That there would have been a part to play. But then you've got a situation of, well, he's clearly not fancied because other people were getting in front of him, getting minutes off the bench in front of him. So the writing was totally on the wall. So when we tested the club by saying we might have some interest and the club go, fine, this is how much we want, it's done. There's no going back from that.
Yeah, there's a deal clearly there.
Yeah.
To be.
Yeah, which suits everybody, by the way. Yeah. So if you just, we do a lot more than handle Leeds players, but clearly we talk about Leeds when we're on this, on this show. But if you look at all those, Archie, Cressy, Max, then they're all in a better place than they would have been because they'd have just been out there, not maybe getting on the bench, maybe getting an odd minute here or there, but they've kick-started their careers again.
Joe Gelhardt, basically.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, isn't it, with Joe? I don't know what they'll do with him. There's been that speculation with Rangers on loan, hasn't there, or something?
It feels like he's someone who definitely needs a move now. He just needs to go somewhere and play a season or two as a first-team player, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. If he was with us, if he was one of ours, that's the exact conversation. But you have that conversation with the club as well. I'm not saying necessarily Leeds. If you've got a player in that situation, for us, the first port of call is the club and say, listen, can we find some common ground here? We need the truth from you as well as a club. Ironically, like under Marcelo, he loved Jamie and he loved having him around, but he was never going to get a start. He'd get minutes, he'd get the odd start, people, but whenever he finally got a chance, Jamie, he broke down. His injuries always came at absolutely the wrong time for him. He's the one player I felt the most sorry for because, his heart and soul, he'd graft, he deserves a place, he's talented, and then he'd have an injury just at the wrong time.
Those conversations with the clubs, I think it's possibly worth shedding a bit of light on that because I think in the mind of fans, there is this kind of default, almost standoffish relationship between player and agent and club. But actually, are those conversations a lot more civil a lot of the time?
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah.
I think, because it's the only way, you have the odd one that it's just right. Absolutely. You're not even going to talk to the club. The player refuses, they want him out or they don't want whatever. You get the odd acrimonious situation. 9 times out of 10, the moves, low moves, whatever, are generated from discussions that you initiate with the club. It's, look, we need to talk to you. Where are we going with this? Or is there a price? The usual tester is there a price? How much would it cost to get him out? And if
you get a definitive answer to that, then you know that they've got it in their mind.
If they say, well, look, the manager's not thinking about him going anywhere, but you could bring something to us, you never know, then that's all wishy-washy. But if they said, anything over 3 million, anything over 4, whatever, they've set the stall out. There's no going back from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, it's really informative speaking to you, Hayden. Thank you for that. And obviously go well with your recovery.
Thank you.
Yeah, because we were trying to get you on for a while. And I was like, this is quite serious. Because like you say, you were sort of downplaying it. Yeah, it was an eye operation, wasn't it? I think for a bit, but we didn't realise you were you'd been under the knife for like 8 hours, which is absolutely wild. So do come back and see us again soon. And fingers crossed for a good season for Leeds United. How are you feeling about it as a Leeds fan?
Yeah, I still fancy us strongly. I think, I'm still upset about Blackburn, but, if you sort of ask me Friday, I'll be saying, yeah, definitely, I think we're the best side in the league and we've certainly got the strongest squad. So I think it's just about, him managing that squad. And I think he's capable of doing that. Well, I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
I fancy us. I do.
Assuming we don't get to speak to you before January, would you do anything?
No, well, I suppose it's all about who, if they took offers, for example, for Firpo, which has been speculation about, then you'd have to do something. Because I think the only place I'd do something for, in January, you're not going to get to knock it on the head anyway, unless they come up with some magic wand like they did with Tanaka. You're not going to get that ball playing number 10 that everybody thinks we need to break down defend. In January, who's available? Not many. So forget that. But I suppose it's in that back four. That's where we need strengthening a little bit. Full-backs are a worry out there. If Sam's not going to be fit every game. So if they got something in for Firpo, yeah, I think they'd replace him. They'd look for a full-back. But I can't see that we actually need to do much. I know if we look on Twitter or X, whatever you call it, we need 11 new players now. But no.
To be fair, Saturday night I was a little bit like that. Put it all in the bin. Put it all in the bin. But then Sunday comes around, I'm not going to engage with it.
Yeah.
But now I'm the same as you. I think we just need to step up to our potential, and I think that's probably what frustrates people with performances like Blackburn is that they're not playing to their potential. Or you feel like they're not anyway.
Yeah, I agree, and it's all well and good that people tend to criticise recruitment directors, the chairman, the owner, Farker, but you've got 11 very good players that started on Saturday, and some very good substitutes that came on. They've got to take responsibility for themselves and their own personal performances. It's not always the fault of a manager.
Yeah, it was interesting noting the reaction to Joe Rodon's comments in the wake of that defeat. And I think I understand what he was saying. And for anybody who's not seen it, the thrust of it was, we know how everyone's going to set up against us. They basically park a defence in front of us and change their game compared to what they would normally play. So there's no surprises in us for this. But it felt to me like what he didn't acknowledge there was but we still didn't have the tools to break them down. That's what it felt like. It felt a little bit, just a tiny bit misplaced. But I know what he was getting at completely. Maybe send out a different lad next time.
Yeah. Let's have some positivity out there.
Hayden, thanks a lot for coming in. We'll do it again soon, yeah?
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
The Square Ball Podcast.